Okay, go ahead, Dan.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a rare Friday meeting of TCOG. Hope everyone's had a good week. We got a few things to get through today, and first thing I want to do is call the meeting to order. Great. Anyone has a sign-in? I don't think we typically do that. Quick review of the agenda. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to look it over. And the first thing we need to do is sign off on the minutes from the last meeting. Can I get any comments on the minutes first? Any amendments to the minute?
They're okay. I move that we approve them.
You will. Do I get a second to approve the July minutes?
So seconded.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Abstentions? The motion carries. The minutes are approved. And it looks like we are joined by our county administrator. Good afternoon, Corsa. It's great to see you or hear you. Okay, we see you.
Great to see you as well, and great to see everyone.
Thanks for making time for us.
Thank you. My camera is awful, so forgive me with the image.
We see a county building in the background, so.
Yeah.
Looking good. Would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, sure, great. So I have a few things here to provide you an update on. I have Nick Hemholt available with me as well. So the first item I have on the agenda for a quick update is on broadband. So I will invite Nick to give you a quick overview of the status on the broadband for the countywide and where we are with that project. So I will hand it over to Nick on that before I continue with the rest of my items.
Very good.
Okay, thanks, Corsa. Yes, and hello, everybody. Just a brief update where things stand with regard to broadband deployment. I believe you should have received a memo that I put together late last week following on an announcement that the state had. A press release they issued about awarding just over $391 million to 11 internet service providers across the state. Included in that proposed allocation was just over $800,000 to be allocated in Tompkins County. This was a deployment to a company called Community Broadband Networks, or CBN. They're based out of Geneva to install what's called a licensed fixed wireless technology across the county. This is a wireless technology. It does not involve installing things to utility poles. It is not what the county had originally proposed roughly a year ago when we were working with Point Broadband on an application, nor is it what the county had supported Point Broadband in their efforts to secure federal funding for last spring. It's a different type of technology. The folks at the state seem confident that this will meet the criteria required for the federal funding to be used and provide broadband to those locations that are currently unserved across the county. We had a detailed meeting, actually two meetings with state officials on this, one last week and one this week, to get into the details of the proposal and how things have changed. And we submitted comments on Wednesday on behalf of the county regarding the proposal. So this is currently, the state's allocation of funding is currently over at the NTIA. It's a federal agency that reviews these proposals, and I believe they have 90 days to accept or modify that proposal. So we should potentially see some news on this soon as to whether that goes forward. So happy to answer what questions I can about this. This is largely sort of in the hands of the state and the federal agencies at this point, but it does look like some work is going forward on broadband deployment in Tompkins County. However, not as we had initially proposed.
Sure, there are some questions. I have some, but I'll let other members go first. Joel, I see your hand up.
Nick, we had the previous experience with a fixed wireless, and the technology proved not to be as useful as we had hoped because of line of sight issues. Is that addressed in this new version?
So from what we understand, and we did have a meeting with the ISP, they claim the technology has improved significantly in the last 10 years, and that the radios they're deploying can work even without a line of sight, and that for locations that still have problematic access issues, they can work with them to install basically like a flagpole to reach to a height that would address that. So we're basically taking it on their word at this point. We don't have any technical data or engineering expertise to really back that up. The state, I think, for their part, is confident in the improvements the technology has made over the last few years, and is proposing to award tens of millions of dollars to deploy this across the state.
And also, I just wanted to also add that this is also in line with the new administration change in policy on the broadband. They expanded the type of services that can be included in this specific funding program. And also, if I believe Nick will be able to correct me, either broadband or a different technology depends on the cost differential. So if the cost difference is significant, they opt in for the lower costs option. And that's the reason why I believe our countywide broadband initiative was over $30 million or 20 something, I believe. And then this one being significant low cost probably is one of the reasons why they opted in for this specific technology as a as part of their cost saving mechanism to be able to capture that in the BEAD program.
Yeah, that's all absolutely accurate. I think essentially with the change in administration, the rules of the BEAD program were changed over the summer, and the state was required to put out another round of requests for applications and had very little recourse to look at anything besides cost when it came to different proposals. So that's sort of where things landed. So there's a lot of licensed fixed wireless that's being put out throughout the state as a part of this proposal.
As long as it works.
Mark Whitmer.
Just, Nick, is it defined by a speed the service provides?
So the minimum required speed is 100 megabytes download and 20 upload. In talking with CBN and looking at what they're proposing on their website, they claim they can go well above that. I think it's one of those things that I think the previous technology, previous deployments have not shown that to be consistent or but we're gonna see what this company can provide.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll just add that one of the reasons I'm sitting down here today instead of out in Proville Road in McLean is that I don't have confidence in my fixed wireless broadband, and my screens freeze and I lose the connection. So I'm not a big fan of the technology. And I'm curious, first off, Nick, if you know that what this CBN is offering, is that significantly better than what is currently deployed in places of Tompkins County?
So, I don't have a easy answer to whether it's better because it ultimately depends on where you are and what's available. When we really looked at this carefully the last time, we did a study with ECC Technologies and examined the whole county and had done some survey research on that front. At that point, there still was, and I suspect still is, a significant amount of county that's in essentially a spectrum monopoly area, that there is no other service for broadband available except for Spectrum. Since then, we've seen some fiber providers expanding their footprint, particularly Empire Access and Southern Tier Networks, but that seems to be mostly focused in like the Ithaca, more urban areas in the county. And we also know that other ISPs have built out, and including the efforts happening in Dryden. So the landscape continues to change, and it depends on where you are. According to the state, we still have 523 locations that are unserved by anything at this point. So that's essentially what the state is trying to address is those locations. And I think they see this as a very cost-efficient way to do that.
Yeah, it's certainly, don't get me wrong, it's certainly better than dial-up. I'll confirm that. But I do want to ask you, do you see the price point being, I was looking at your memo, I don't know if that was mentioned in
I didn't mention it, but you can, if you go to the CBN website, you can see their current pricing, and I understand they're as a part of their grant award, they'll have to continue to offer something like this down in the future. But the entry level pricing, I think, is $40 per month, and there are discounts for lower income or fixed income folks. So yeah, I'll drop the link in the chat so folks can see that.
Do you have any idea whether CBN would follow the Affordable Access Program? I know they have probably fewer potential subscribers than the program requires. I believe it's for 25,000 or more. You have to provide the affordable access rate, which is about $15 a month.
I'm not aware of that requirement. I suspect once they have built out what they are getting an award for here through the state, they'll easily clear that hurdle. The total award to CBN was $121 million, and it crossed easily a dozen counties. And so yeah, I'm sure they'll if the state requires that for providers of that level, then they'll be in that category very soon.
Yeah, as long as their service area is considered beyond our county borders, then yeah, they would have to follow that rate. Some ISPs and say like the Dryden effort, we are offering the $15 a month, regardless of the fact that we're not serving 25,000 customers, because we think it's the right thing to do, and I hope we get that through with CBN as well. My other question, was satellite ever an option for the BEAD program for upstate New York or Tompkins?
Yes to both. And in fact, I believe roughly $20 million of New York's BEAD allocation is going to satellite in the form of a word to SpaceX. They have 2 locations in Tompkins County, which is a bit of a head scratcher for us. And it was one of our comments back to the state is we understand that the network CBN is deploying will be able to reach everything within Tompkins County, and particularly in looking at their more regional network, there shouldn't be any gap areas. So we asked them to reconsider if those locations could be folded into the CBN award allocation.
Okay, and one other concern that my municipality and Caroline have is whether they would be looking for customers in either Dryden or Caroline, given that we already have an initiative funded by the federal government underway. Do you have any idea?
I can't speak to what CBN's, business plans are. My understanding is that once the network is up and running, customers within the service area will be allowed to enroll, as long as there's capacity on their network. So I can't speak to that, but potentially you could invite someone from their company to get more into those details later.
Yeah, my feeling is they'll probably try and market in our jurisdictions, and that's fine. We're okay with competition. I just was wondering if there was a carve-out formal or not.
My understanding is there's not. I don't think there's any specific protections in place for locations that have gotten previous MIP awards.
Yeah. Okay, great. Any other questions from members here?
Dan, we do have, my apologies for interrupting. We do have someone who is in the attendees list, and they are under the name Myville. So if they could join the Zoom meeting with an appropriate title, then we could include them in the meeting as well.
Yeah, would the guests in the waiting room please indicate your name?
Yeah, thank you.
as Taylor just indicated. And in the meantime, I believe Mr. Lynch has a comment or question.
Yes, Bob Lynch from town of Enfield. I had a question because, as I recall, when we initially put this proposal through, it was that over-the-air was not an acceptable means of providing broadband internet. It had to be hardwired. This is not going to be hardwired. So is it acceptable? Should we try for something better? Can we try for something better?
So just to be clear, this is the state's decision, not ours. The county had, I think, a similar perspective, or basically the same concept, is that we were aiming for a terrestrial solution, a wired solution, if you will, fiber preferably, and had been working with providers to design and build that out and find funding for that. Essentially, this memo is saying that we've not been successful in that, and that the state is choosing a wireless solution for Tompkins County, and that's where the remainder of the BEAD funding is going to go into, unless, of course, something changes between now and when that's actually installed.
So should we look at it further? Should we have another investigation to see if we need and deserve something better?
I think that's a decision for this group. It's hard to say from my perspective. I'd say the prospects of getting additional federal money at this point seem low.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that was an important last statement there, Nick. The gravy train for broadband investment, I think, has come to a halt, and we're lucky we got what we have at this point in this community, and it's a lot more than what we had just a few years ago. All right, back to you, Corsa.
Yes, great. Thank you, Nick. And just to give you other update here, I have a quick update on the MMR. I believe all of you received a notification of information that was provided to us by CGR. We are still waiting for their final report. They were expected to provide their report next week to Public Safety Committee. Due to some few issues that have been postponed to October. It's not because the report is not ready, but it's just related to an individual health issue. So we have postponed the date to October for Paul Bishop to attend public safety with their report and provide an analysis and also conversation around how we pay for any option that we feel we need. Mm-hmm. The other item here is that the current proposed or recommended budget is funding the MMR to the current levels. There are no changes to the current plan. And I think that is in line with what we decided to do in exploring the CGR options. So depending on where the report lands and the commitment from the body, we will be able to determine what direction we go from here. If there's any questions on that, we can respond or can move on to the other items I have.
I just want to clarify, you're referring to RMR, correct?
Sorry, RMR, yeah.
I think I might have heard measles, mumps, and rubella, and I know we're thinking about that this week, but gotta stay focused on rapid medical response.
Absolutely, yes.
Which, by the way, we heard that the RMR saved a life in August, and I think that's just one more indication that the county has gone down the right path with this program.
Absolutely, thank you. So the other item I have is the budget process. All departments and agencies completed their submission to the legislatures or presentation to the legislatures yesterday. Public forum will be held on Tuesday, September 30th, and that will be followed by 3 days of legislative voting on the various proposals. So we are hoping that that process will also go as smoothly as possible. As many of you know, we presented a recommended budget of 4.5% tax levy increase. The significant requests or changes that we made or significant cuts that we made. So we are anticipating long meetings and discussing various items and permutations and changes that needs to be considered. Probably, additionally, you may be aware, TCAC is asking for additional $500,000 from the funding partners or the underwriters. That additional $500,000 was not included in the recommended budget. So that is one of the decision points that the legislature would need to make. But for the underwriters, the three entities would need to agree on which direction they want to fund TCAC up to. So that will also be coming as part of the decision point that the legislature will be saddled with. Moving on to shelter development, we signed an agreement with Volunteers of America of Upstate New York to assist us in writing or developing our HHAP application to develop the shelter on Cherry Street. That contract is now executed. They are working closely with MM Development, our development consultant. And the goal is to be able to get an application pack ready to submit to the state on the first date that the next round of HHAP funding get opened, so that we will stand a good chance of being funded. So that is ongoing at the moment. The county, working with DSS, is also preparing to open 2025-2026 Cold Blue season at Cherry Street. We are very committed to making sure the facility is open by mid-November. We are working day in and day out and make sure everything that we need is available to provide support and services to client. County administration is working very, very close with DSS to identify and engage a service provider to assist us this year in providing Cold Blue services. So there's a lot of moving parts, and we are hoping that we'll be able to pin down a service provider by the end of next week, or in the worst case scenario by end of October, and also move forward with the processes. We believe that end of October will be extremely close to the date Cold Blue need to kick in. So we are doing as much as we can to make sure we have a contract in place within the next few days or a week or two, and then we can move forward and announce who the partner is and service changes that will be expected. We are hoping that we recorded some successes with the county running Cold Blue shelter last season, but we are hoping that the outcomes with working with a partner will even exceed what we were able to achieve last season. So we're very optimistic and excited about what lies ahead of us. So those are my updates, and if anybody has any questions on something that I did not even touch on, I'll be happy to provide responses.
Yes, Joe.
So what is the what's the role of the VOA?
Can you repeat your question? Sorry, you got frozen out.
The VOA you mentioned, the Volunteers of America?
Volunteers of America of Upstate New York.
Yeah, and what is their role going to be?
They are shelter service provider. They have shelters that they run in Rochester and also in Binghamton. So their role is to provide services, manage the shelter, staffing, in terms of laundry, every single service that needs to be provided in a shelter location.
So are they lined up to do the code blue, or are they is
Yeah.
that not within their purview?
No, we have an agreement with them to help us develop the terrestrial shelter. We are currently in negotiations with entities including VOA, preferably VOA, to provide those services as well. There's such a short time to show up and provide the services, so we are making sure they'll be able to scale up and get the tools and resources they need to be able to provide good services. One of the reasons why we are considering this option is that they already provide COVID services in Binghamton, and we believe that they will be able to assist us significantly.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for Corsa? Comments? Okay, thank you again for joining us, Corsa.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone. I will jump off to another meeting, so I appreciate all of you, and I'm looking forward to meeting most of you on the date of the RMR presentation from all the expanded service presentation from CGR, so that we can have good conversation and come up with some quality decision point that will assist.
Yes, it looks like Paul is doing a very thorough report, and we're all very interested in that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so I think we're going to move on then to reports, presentations, and updates. First off is a lead and copper regulatory update.
Good afternoon. Is my audio okay?
Yes.
Yes, Doug.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
So let me make sure I can share this. And is my presentation viewable now? Am I sharing the right screen?
Yes, it looks great.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. So yeah, thanks so much for this invitation to come and speak on this absolutely riveting topic of lead and copper. I'm Doug Barnes. I'm from the Tompkins County Whole Health. I'm a senior environmental health specialist here. Before I get any farther, though, I do want to give a big shout out. She was too humble to correct me on this first slide, but our graduate public health fellow, Allison Castellani, did a really good job of boiling down 250 pages of regulation into, a 15-slide PowerPoint. So I just wanted to make sure she got a little recognition there. But this was prompted by a question that came through. Just somebody was looking for just kind of some guidance on timing for some of this, as well as some specific questions. So this really is just a very broad overview of these regulations with a few caveats that I'll kind of pepper in here, sprinkle in as we go through. But just a little bit of background and kind of how we're moving forward here. In 1991, there were the lead and copper rules or the lead and copper regulations that were established. And those are the ones that we've been pretty familiar with here for quite a while. And those are the ones that established required testing throughout the distribution system of lead and copper. And they set the action levels at 15 parts per billion. There was also a trigger level at 10 parts that had water systems do a few things to try to limit the any kind of additional lead in the water before it got up to that action level. And then if they did have lead in their lines, they had to have a corrosion control treatment. Then here in 2021, they updated that to the lead and copper regulation requirements. And then I think that's what it was. But they That just kind of was a stepping stone to what was going to be the lead and copper rule improvements. And what that established is back in October, water systems had to submit an inventory of all their service lines, whether they were not lead or unknown, or if they were galvanized requiring replacement. And then it also increased or changed the type of notification they had to provide the public. And really that was kind of a transition to what was going to be once 2024 hit was this LCRI. And the LCRI has a compliance date of November of 2027. So giving water systems 3 years to kind of get things in order and be ready to follow these compliance dates that are going to talk about, along with a whole host of other requirements in this. Now, I put a little asterisk here because I do just want to point out, that there's currently the American Water Works Association and others have actually filed a lawsuit against this, against the EPA, because their claim, among other things, is that this is just too large of regulations for most water systems to handle in the time frame provided. So minimally, they're hoping for an extension on this, if not to change some of the regulatory requirements in it. So one of the things that have popped up here is that we need to, when you take your samples from certain areas in your system, you have to calculate what's called the 90th percentile for the lead and copper. And if it does exceed that 90th percentile, or if the 90th percentile exceeds 15 parts per billion, there is immediate action that is required. And listed below here are the things that need to be done. So within 24 hours, you have to consult with your local health department. You have to issue a Tier 1 public notice. And you have to email a sample copy of that public notice to the state, your local health department, and the EPA. Within 10 days of that, you have to submit a certification to confirm that the Tier 1 public notice was completed. And then within 60 days after that, you have to conduct a public education as required. So depending on the size of the system, you have to, that's going to look a little bit different. So a lot of this stuff that I'm going to talk about is kind of dependent on the size of your system. So I'm not going to get too terrible deep in the details. This is just kind of broad strokes as we go through. So the key changes under LCRI that come into effect that started in 2024, but then are going to, the compliance date starts in 2027, is they actually are getting rid of that trigger level and are just lowering the action level to 10 parts per billion. And then they're increasing the sampling, how stringent that is. Currently, they just have to draw at their sampling locations a 1 liter sample from what's called a first draw. So turn the tap on, take that 1 liter and submit it. But in order to expand that to most of that water is going to be within the building. So to try to catch the water that is still out in the service line outside of the building, that's what that 5th liter is going to be for. Then, along with that, you must have your inventory, which is going to have to be validated and updated continuously. I'll talk about this in a little bit, but it's going to have to be a full line replacement, no partials. And then communication is what we talked about in that LCRR, is that you still have your Tier 1 notification. But then they've also added you have to provide filters in certain circumstances. I'll get to a little bit of that here momentarily. So again, just kind of reiterating that currently that action level is 15 parts per billion with a trigger level of 10, but they're just getting rid of that trigger level and just lowering the action level to 10. And in order to determine that, that's when you have to do your 1st and 5th liter draws, and you actually have to take the higher of the two to calculate your 90th percentile from there. Now, depending on the size of your system, you have to have, there's going to be very clear rules on where you're sampling from. and that you have to have that written out in a very clear plan, and it has to match your monitoring timeline. And as time goes on, if you are replacing lines, then you have to update your monitoring plan, your timeline, and the sampling sites to match changes as you replace the service lines within your system. So, and I think this is where it gets to be very, very logistically cumbersome and challenging for systems here is that annually you have to send an updated inventory. So any replacements that you do throughout the year, you have to make sure that your inventory is updated. If new information comes along through new records that maybe come to light, you have to update your inventory. You have to provide that to your local health department or the state every year, and provide annual notification to your users if they are being served by a lead service line or others that need replacement. Then you need to make sure by 2027 that your inventory meets that baseline inventory requirement, which was submitted in 24, but needs to be last year, but needs to be reviewed. If a customer has inquiries about what potentially kind of service line they're being served by, you need to be responding to them within 30 days. There's going to be a very specific and detailed validation process that you have to use to make sure your inventory is accurate and up to date. And you have to be able to provide justification for your validation process. And then at the end here, non-lead systems must notify the state within 60 days if a lead galvanized requiring replacement line or lead connector is found and the inventory is updated. So just lots and lots of monitoring and updated throughout this. So it can get very cumbersome for just about any water system. So just as a quick review, I know many of you probably know this already, but and maybe I should have had this earlier, but service lines, there's a couple different places. You have the public side from the main, so usually a curb stop, and then the private side from the curb stop to the home. But that's the lead service line those are the service lines we're referring to. The ones that, especially with the inventory and then future replacement, we're looking for ones that are made specifically out of lead. If it's made out of, if it's galvanized, and if it's ever been, or it's suspected to ever been downstream of lead, then that galvanized pipe could have reacted and bonded to the lead and be holding it, and it can slowly leach that lead out over time. So those galvanized requiring replacements are just galvanized pipe that would need to be replaced because of that. And then if you have non-lead or unknown, over time, either through visual inspection or other replacements, you need to verify that it specifically is non-lead, especially if it's unknown. Many of ours, well, there are some systems in the county, and then after talking to the state, there are other systems in the state that have just submitted their inventory that was the claim it was all non-lead, but that's going to have to be verified over time. So that kind of broad overview of some of the things that are going to need to be done with the timeline. But then the other question can kind of come up because not all systems are created equal as far as who's under control, because I know sometimes villages have special circumstances or municipalities where they've provided water lines outside of the municipal limits. And so the question was, who's responsible for replacing those service lines? And the best advice we got from the state really looks like whoever's in charge of the water system now. So if there's a water main break in that area, or there's a problem with the service line in between the main and the curb stop, and whatever municipality has been under control of replacing or repairing that would be the municipality or the unit in charge of doing this service line monitoring and making sure they're up to date with their LCRI compliance. So, and then, of course, that gets a little bit more complicated when under LCRI, that you cannot do what's called just a partial service line replacement. If you are working on the public side service line, you're required to replace the private at the same time. The only time that you can do a partial replacement is if there's an emergency repair. So if there is a line break and you're just replacing that section because of that emergency, you can do the partial replacement. But systems that conduct a partial replacement must offer to replace the private portion within 45 days. And you have to make what's called a, quote, reasonable effort to obtain property owner consent to be able to dig on their property and replace the private side. One thing that's come up quite often is who's responsible for paying for that, and that's going to be a water purveyor by municipal decision. Some water purveyors are just absorbing that cost. Others have decided to put that on the cost of the homeowner. But that's been a case by case situation by municipality or water purveyor. If you have tried at least 2 different methods of communication and there's been no communication back, then you just have to provide documentation to the state saying we've reasonably tried to get a hold of this owner. They have not gotten back to us, and that's why the private side has not been replaced. But another logistical challenge is that if that property changes ownership, then you have to start that process again to notify that homeowner that their service line has not been replaced on the private side, and if they would offer access to that for the water system to be able to replace it. So, one of the things that LCR is requiring is not only now that you have an inventory, but you provide the state with a plan of how you're going to go about replacing the lines. The goal is once 2027 hits, and that's when the compliance portion of this begins, that you'll be able to replace all service lines within 10 years. So you're replacing 10% a year. So every year you're going to have to update the plan to show what areas you're targeting next, send that to the state, and keep doing that over the course of the 10 years. If a water system does end up with multiple lead action level exceedances, they have to conduct additional outreach to consumers, and they have to then provide or make filters, home water filtration devices available to those homeowners. If there's a disturbance in the line during a repair, they also have to provide those filters to the homeowner, and they need to make sure that those filters are certified to reduce lead. So they need to be, they can't just be any kind of water filtration system. They have to be certified for lead. Certainly not going to read through all of these, but these are just, and I've I think already covered them for the most part, but 2024 was, last year was the kind of beginning of LCRI as far as getting ready for it. November of 2027 will begin the compliance date. So water systems and municipalities will have to start following that with the goal of course, 2037 being the final replacement of all lines. Again, just some of the big things that are going to have to come up early, so really to be working on over the next couple of years. And the assumption that this sticks, again, it's within litigation, so it might change, but you need that baseline service line inventory. You need to have that service line replacement plan, and you also have to have a list of schools and licensed child care facilities served by your water district. And then by January of 2028, you have to have a site sample plan. Looking way into the future here, then by 2032, you have to offer complete sampling at all the licensed child care and elementary schools. Again, you have to be working towards that inventory validation, which is a process all on its own. And then with the goal being 2037 to finish all of this. So on paper, it's, a nice not reasonable, but worthwhile goal of over the course of the next 14 years, 13 years to be able to get rid of all lead lines. But again, logistically, very, very challenging. I know personally here at the health department, we've already been seeing with all different sizes of water systems, just a challenge of having certified operators for these systems, because they've already been, regulatory changes have already been taxing them and changing requirements for certification, and this has just been another massive burden on them. So we have a fear here at the county and at the state that trained and operators are going to be even harder to come by if this is going to stay as it is. So for everybody getting the presentation, we put in these links just again, because this was such a broad overview that these kind of are some fact sheets and other documents throughout from the EPA to help guide with what needs to be done when. But there's also, we are certainly a resource as always, if anybody has questions and needs clarification. But also, I was reminded after I submitted this that RCAP is an organization, nonprofit, that also provides guidance for smaller systems as well. So they can be used as a resource. But that's all I have. So again, thank you, and certainly happy to answer any questions.
Well, one simple question. What Doug, does the, what's the increased burden on operators from this regulatory framework?
So for smaller systems, say like a mobile home park or even a school, the operator would be the one that's trying to be in charge of maintaining the inventory, updating the inventory, doing all of the paperwork, along with any potential coordination of replacing lines and things like that. So it's all so unless new staff is added, the operator would be the one required to provide all that.
Okay.
Bob?
So the operator would not just include a municipality. It could include, let's say, a private developer that had 40 homes under his ownership and control with people living there. It would be that private owner's responsibility?
Yeah, whoever they hire. Most, so depending on the size of the system, for New York State, once you hit five service lines to, say like a 5-apartment building, that triggers you to be a state system. And the owner of that might be the operator, making sure that the system is doing what it needs to, is minimally providing safe drinking water, let alone all these other regulations. But usually in bigger systems like that, if a company owns multiple mobile home parks, they'll hire an operator that's trained to go to each mobile home park and be in charge of it. But yeah, yep.
And the second question is, this regulation originated with the EPA. We know in Washington things are in flux, but is this one of those things where regardless of what Washington does, New York State will step in and New York State will mandate these regulations?
They've stepped in a little bit, and they started drafting, I believe, similar regs, but I think that's been kind of put on pause until some clarity has come from EPA, because it's my understanding that they didn't want to contradict certain regulations that were there. Plus, they also, I think, want to wait until see what happens with the current litigation against them before moving forward. But because but New York State was also focused on, and I'm sure you've heard of the PFAS rules for that. So they were making some in conjunction with EPA. So I think there was the expectation that they were going to do something similar with the lead, but they were just running a little bit behind from EPA timeline. So.
Any other questions? Oh, Mike Murphy. Mr. Mayor Murphy. There you go. Go ahead, Mayor Murphy. We're not hearing you right now. All right, Mike, I think we're gonna.
I'm sorry.
There you go. All right, good to hear
I'm sorry. Oh, okay, finally got through. Okay. I guess my question is for a village. The houses in it, the village is responsible. But if there's let's say we have apartment houses, they're responsible, or somebody builds a development, if they control it, then they're responsible. So how does that happen when the federal look at it and they look at the area and they say, oh, we have to be responsible to tell which ones are not us, that this is an apartment complex or this is a other thing, or we're exempt. We don't have to do anything on that. We just do our own.
So when you're talking about the building complex, is that in the village hooked to the municipal water?
Yeah, they use our water.
Yeah. So in that particular case, the village would still be, the village is in charge of that. That'd be my understanding. It would just be if they're on their own well, then they've become their own water supplier, and they would be responsible for their treatment and distribution.
So anybody on our water is ours.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, yeah. Annie Corman from the county legislature is here with a question.
Thanks, Dan. And Doug, thanks for the presentation. So two things. One is, so putting you on the spot a bit here, with the county legislature, since we're in the thick of budget season, one of the asks was for an enhancement or over target request for an additional person, if I recall correctly, I don't have the papers in front of me, environmental health specialist, I think it was, to work with water. And so is that a person that would help in your department be able to do things better or more in a certain way?
Yes, that was certainly the thought behind it, is that if this legislation goes through as desired, with all of the struggles that we've seen operators have even before all this, that we could be an additional resource for, helping them navigate and stay compliant, not only with LCRI, but just regular, safe drinking water regulations that, have been in place for decades.
Okay, thank you. I know
Yep.
the commissioner, Jenny, had said that, doing more tests locally, been able to, find, many more issues with water locally because we're doing above and beyond what's required at the state or federal level. And then the second thing is, up on their agenda for this group is about regarding biosolids, and I think you helped consult a little bit with that. So I'm hoping if you have any, am I correct that you were talking with some folks working on that at the EMC?
This morning, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you have any input when they go over that, I just want to see if you're going to.
Yeah, if you can stay for the next item, that would be great.
Yeah, certainly.
Okay.
Certainly.
Thanks for letting me chime in.
All right, I think we're going to move on to the next sub-item, and that's the Laserfish technology project. Who's giving an update on that? Do we have an update? Oh, it's on mine.
Hey, Dan, at the last meeting, I brought that up and Caitlin said, why don't you connect with me? So we have not connected.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't have any update, so.
All right, maybe I have a prior edition of the agenda then. Very well, then we will move right on to item 6, which is the resolution concerning sewage sludge. And just by means of reintroduction of the topic, we had a representative from Environmental Advocates come to our last meeting, Claire Winslow, and she gave us a sort of an introduction or a red flag about this topic, and I think it caught a lot of our attention. So given that, and it felt like the mood of the group was that we should follow up on this with a resolution to express our concern about this issue to both the county and to the state. With the emphasis on the latter, I think we're really looking for a more comprehensive approach to this issue. But addressing it at the county level is prudent as well, and we would not be alone in that regard. Schoharie and Albany County currently have moratoriums in place. A couple towns in the Steuben County have actual bans in place on PFAS chemicals being applied through biosolids, and basically the application of biosolids on farmland. And that's what we're really addressing with this. I think if we wanted to add farmland to land application under one of the resolves, I would be comfortable doing that, but I do want to be clear that's what we're talking about, so we don't have this bioaccumulation in our farming system where PFAS and other chemicals are applied from biosolids being used as a beneficial use. And believe it or not, the DEC still refers to biosolid application on land as a beneficial use. I would say that their guidelines are outdated. I believe they were written before 2015 at least. And we've learned a lot about what PFAS can do. The EPA recently regulated the application or the presence of PFAS in drinking water at 4 parts per trillion. And that screening should occur in that regard. So the knowledge about the damage and the threat of PFAS seems to be unfolding before our very eyes. And I think that's one of the reasons that we felt like this is something that has been present and accepted and not even thought about. But now that we have more knowledge, like many chemical exposures, we should protect ourselves, protect our land, protect our future. The cost of cleanup is exorbitant, as you might imagine. And a lot of things that Claire talked about when she was visiting with us. The remediation could just be profoundly expensive. So better to step in on this issue with this resolution and calling on the county and also the state to act. We're fortunate that our Assembly member, Dr. Anna Kellis, has been at the forefront of this issue and sponsored legislation in the state assembly. And there was legislation in the state Senate as well that passed, by the way, in June. The state Senate legislation passed 48-11. Anna's bill got tied up in the Rules Committee. And that's where mischief can occur without members being fully exposed to the scrutiny that a vote would take place. There can just be something kind of unclear done in the Rules Committee to prevent legislation from coming to the floor. And we can only speculate on that, but Anna did put out a press release saying that private equity has a firm in an upstate county that is making massive profits by mixing our municipal sewage sludge with wood chips and then selling it back to us. Brilliant. And so for this and other reasons, I worked on this resolution with Claire, and I shared it with everyone a couple weeks ago. And if there's feedback, we're certainly open to it. I invited Annie Corman, not that she needed an invitation to come here, but Annie Corman is visiting with us today, and she might have some things to say as well. But before I go there, let me ask our members for comments on this, and then we'll go to Annie.
Probably ought to get somebody to move it.
Could I get a move on this?
I'll move it.
Okay. Ruth moves it. Looks like Mark Whitmer will second it.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks for that procedural tip. But yeah, sure, let's have a discussion about this if there are members that want to chime in, or Annie. Yeah, Bob.
I just wanted to say I'm always reluctant to vote on something where I've only heard one side of the story. And we heard Ms. Walsh Winsler last meeting talk about this, and she made a very persuasive argument. And so, I mean, in normal circumstances, I might abstain because I hadn't heard the other side, but I know that I represent the town of Enfield. I represent my Enfield Town Board. They're very environmentally conscious. And on their behalf, I will vote for this. But I wish I had heard the other side of the argument, if there is another side. And I'd like to know why the thing got stalled in the state assembly. I think it was, you said there might be some private equity firms involved in it. But I'm just curious to know why it didn't pass if it is such a good thing for our environment.
If I could, I did do a little research on this, and some of the publicly owned wastewater treatment facilities say, well, this is an economical way to dispose of the sewage sludge as opposed to putting it in a landfill or as opposed to incineration. The application, there are nutrients in it. It does make things grow, but it also results in bioaccumulation, as I mentioned before. Where whatever crop or whatever farm animal is ingesting what would be grown from this would accumulate that in their system and hit us a little harder. But the argument is economics. And back in the 1980s, it was banned from being dumped in the ocean, and that created this new industry of putting it on farmland and fed into that growth until now. And now we have entire states, like the state of Maine, has banned it. And Maine is not a left-wing progressive state. I know, I grew up there. And to see that they did that, and it was led by farmers, by the way, the ban in Maine.
Is the question on line 33, the final resolve, it says recommending they create a fund to support impacted farmers. Now, I presume the impacted farmers are the farmers who were impacted negatively by the sewage sludge, not farmers who were impacted negatively by not being able to spread the sludge.
I think this has to do with the remediation of land, because as I mentioned in some of the information that Claire sent me, a cleanup cost for existing PFAS contamination is projected to be more than $436 million, plus at least $1 billion in additional future costs. These are notes that she had sent me about the cost. So not only are they recognizing that this is a threat, but it's a problem that needs to be dealt with. But that's calling on the state for action, not Tompkins County. We're not asking for $1 billion from Tompkins County. Annie.
Yeah, can I address that a little bit too? Locally, I will say this is the first time for me, and I've been working in environmental, whether working or volunteering in environmental issues for a long time, and not since fracking, before or after fracking. This is the only thing that compares to that as far as the local support and enthusiasm that we've had so far from the Environmental Management Council, which is leading our local efforts and helping us draft the law and liaison with other boards. The Agricultural and Farmland Protection Board is totally on board and is looking at writing a support letter or passing a resolution on us, or for us at the County Water Resources Council the Cayuga Lake Watershed Intermunicipal Organization, and then possibly today TCOG. So this is unprecedented that any other agency you can think that, or organization that, we'll certainly contact them, but everybody that we've contacted so far has been on board. And it's huge to get the farmers, because this is regulation, for them, which, they would prefer to figure out themselves and look themselves. So to get the farmers on board, to me, is unprecedented, and really says a lot, what Dan was saying, that this impacts them, and so that they are hoping that we do pass something, because you could have, some unintended consequences like farmland that's unusable. The Cornell Cooperative Extension is helping us look at our farms spreading this so far in the county. So far, we haven't been able to find any farms that are spreading it in the liquid form. So we think this won't hurt them, having to go back and tell people no. And if they did spread it, they would have to go through our environmental health at our whole health department. And so far as what I've heard is we're not giving them permits to do that. So they'd have to go through us. So I don't want to speak for Doug if I've misspoke on that part.
But to just confirm, our Ithaca area wastewater treatment facility is landfilling their sludge.
And so far, what EMC has been able to find out is that all municipalities within Tompkins County, or all wastewater treatment plants in the county, including Ithaca wastewater, take their sewage sludge and send it to landfills.
Yep.
So that's
we're not impacting our local facilities. What we want to ensure is that we're not bringing in biosludge from other municipalities or other entities that may have contamination.
Right, and we're afraid the pressure might get worse to bring it in here as other places are starting to put bans or moratoriums on it. They're going to be less and less. They're going to be looking for more places to bring it.
And if I could just add, it's our job to lead, I think, in many cases. Tompkins doing this will get noticed by other counties. Right. Maybe we don't get this legislation through the state. And unfortunately, that's the way it goes. But if we can address this at a municipal level, at a county level, we're doing the work that needs to get done. Joel?
Hey, Pierre had his hand up first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please. Pierre?
Forgive me, but while I'm not a gardener or a farmer, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's labeling requirements, especially on small scale fertilizers that might contain sludge. How, if this is passed, how will small scale consumers know? Moratorium on all types of land applications sounds great, but I don't understand how we're going to enforce it.
Yeah, if it's small.
I'm not sure we can do that at a local level. That would be state that they were asking them to, have a disclaimer on that.
And, just to address the details that might be missing in this resolution, this is not the local law. What we're doing, and I think we should be proud of this, is we're bringing this up. And we brought, the topic up. I think we were the first in this county to do that, to have Claire come here. And the county advisory councils, as they should, are paying attention to this and will dive deeper. From what I hear, they have a much longer proposal that they're working on that with much more granular detail in it that should address things like that, Pierre.
Understood. I appreciate that. Thanks.
A little historical perspective. The Tompkins County Solid Waste Department, as it was called at the time, did a co-composting trial at the Hillview Road landfill site a number of years ago, before the site closed, as a potential way of using our sewage sludge beneficially. And unfortunately, it didn't work out because, interesting, it was a wood chip co-composting, much as you described, Dan. And we couldn't figure out how to get the finished compost out of the wood chips so that they could be reused. But that would change because I mean, the desirability of recycling our bio waste is strong. I mean, we're wasting the nutrients by landfilling instead of getting, completing the cycle and putting them back on the land. I think it's outrageous that this situation was allowed to develop in the first place. I mean, I wonder whether in addressing it, there could be something put in to allow the land spreading if and when the remediation is brought to bear, that we could clean up the sludge or remove the PFAS from the environment so that it becomes clean enough to use again, and not have to go back and rescind the legislation or modify it.
Well, I can partially address that. Some of the biggest companies that are producing PFAS and putting them into our products, from Teflon on our frying pans to, wax on dental floss, they're phasing it out. There are many different types of PFAS, but now that the recognition has been brought on the long term, these chemicals take a very, very long time to break down, longer than we're going to be around. So now that this attention is being applied, it's conceivable that the presence could be reduced in municipal sewage sludge and at another time. And then we could go back to looking at sewage sludge as either Class A or Class B. The Class B being sewage sludge that has been treated enough to be warranted as okay to apply on land. And that means removing the other chemical contaminants that could be there, like heavy metals and other items that you wouldn't want in your sewage sludge. And so we could go back to that classification system. Right now, however, we find PFAS in both Class A and Class B municipal biosludge. And Doug, if you've got more to add, I'm going off script, let me know.
No, and that was kind of part of the conversation this morning, but also it's a delicate balance too of if you start to try to identify things, say a company that has a product with PFAS in it, then people that are using that product, for something that they sell, as their livelihood. Now all of a sudden they've been, identified as using this. How does that impact them? So it's going to be I think it's going to be a longer term kind of conversation. But as far as that goes, I know I was talking with our public health engineer here, and he didn't give a time, but there was a time that he helped a hauler get a permit, and I can't remember if it was in this county or not, that they didn't take sludge from the wastewater treatment plant. It was directly from pumping out systems at homes and then applying it that way. So it wasn't concentrated from other industrial sources or other things. It was just home use as well. But I don't know what the research shows as far as concentration levels at that level compared to biosludge from larger facilities. If that's a different avenue that can be taken temporarily, if that's still something that needs to be used or not.
And of course, Tompkins County banned the land spreading of septage a long time ago. And so what land spreading of septage is taking place is happening outside the county.
Yeah, that's in one of the whereases, I believe, Joel.
Mm-hmm. So I think this may be the best we can do, given the current situation. And I support the motion.
Other comments or questions about this? Well, great.
May I call the roll?
Would you please?
Yep. Dan Lamb,
Yes.
Robert Lynch,
Yes.
Joel Ganon,
Yes.
Mark Whitmer,
Yes.
Ruth Groff,
Yes.
Susan Ainsley,
Yes.
Mike Murphy,
Yes.
Joanne James, Joanne James.
You're muted. She's waving yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Caitlin Olson,
Yes.
Pierre St. Perez,
Aye.
and Ruth Groff. Ruth will take a wave.
You already said my name once.
My
but
apologies.
Yes, again.
You count twice.
Yes, you do not count twice, but my apologies for the duplication.
Lansing's important,
That's okay.
but not that important.
The list did move.
All right, so the
Does
motion.
that mean I'm
Two
more important? I get
Lansings.
twice the vote?
All right, thanks. That was a good discussion, and I think this is a good use of our committee our group to look at things like this. Moving on to the next item, this is just carrying on our interest and I think our leadership on EMS reform and sending another message to New York State to keep up the pressure on reform of EMS at the state level. And I don't need to remind everyone about the crisis that our volunteer EMS and paid volunteer services are facing. However, there are members in the legislature who don't see the crisis like we do, and there's legislation to address this. And do I need to move this to start?
You can move it.
Let me move it, and then I'll keep describing it.
Second.
Yeah, not surprisingly, or maybe surprisingly, this essential services initiative that we cared so much about last year is not included in what passed the Assembly and the Senate this year. So what we're referring to here is asking the state to, particularly the governor, to sign this legislation to require that counties throughout New York do what we're already doing here in Tompkins. So we're not putting a new burden on our county or our towns or our city because, as Corsa just indicated, we've got a county plan in the works on this very issue. However, our neighbors don't, and those of us who are funding EMS or ambulance in our municipalities like Dryden, like Trumansburg, are serving counties nearby who have no EMS planning underway. And frankly, I'd like to see them have to do that. I'd like to see them show how they're meeting the EMS crisis head on and addressing the issue. So that's one of my reasons as a Dryden official to want to see this legislation passed. It is passed, signed by the governor. Additionally, I think it's another step, an incremental step towards the requirement that EMS and ambulance service be seen as an essential service in New York. And so if we can go this far, okay, sky didn't fall, let's go all the way and require this as an essential service, just like we do with fire. So I think it would also provide data that the state is lacking, because when this planning takes place, each county will have an idea of their gaps in services, and that will allow our state legislators to take a better look at the situation and step up and provide some funding as well. But that's all down the road. I think we're doing what we have to here in Tompkins and leading on this issue. I think we can all be proud of that, but I think we need to send a message to the governor that we want this signed. The governor, as some of you may know, when things pass, she can call up legislation and decide she's going to look at it in the next 10 days and either sign it or issue what's called a pocket veto by doing nothing. At some point later in this fall, the governor will have that opportunity. There will be a 10-day window. It's not like she's sitting on her desk right now because she hasn't technically called it up. But I think by getting on the record as supporting this and wanting it to be signed into law, the likelihood of being called up and signed is greater. And so that's one of the reasons I want to do this and just show our support for our Senator Leah Webb and Assemblymember Kellis for their sponsorship and promotion of this legislation.
Was it you who drafted it, Dan?
Excuse me?
Was it you who drafted the resolution?
I drafted it along with Ellen Woods, who is a first responder over in Enfield, I believe.
Thank you.
Trumansburg, I'm sorry.
I think she works in Trumansburg, volunteers in Enfield.
Say that again so we all hear that.
Ellen Woods, she works at the Trumansburg, in Trumansburg.
She works in Trumansburg.
But also volunteers in Enfield, I believe.
Yeah, and she is so tuned into this issue, and I got to thank her for reminding us of the need to stay on top of this issue and helping with the language. But I also ran this by our State Assemblywoman's office, and it was shared with Otis's office, Assembly Member Otis's office as well. So the other offices know that we're weighing in on this issue.
Did you catch the second? Because I tried to second it. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we catch your second? It's been seconded. Duly noted. Thank you. Any other members of the Emergency and Preparedness Committee? Mark or Warden, do you want to weigh in on this?
I'll just say, no, this is great. Thanks for putting this forward. I think the rationale, the reasoning for doing it is spot on that you described. So yeah, I support this wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob.
I will mention that our Enfield Town Board, I believe it was in August, passed a similar resolution to this, and I compliment Councilperson Cassandra Hinkle for introducing it. It passed unanimously by our town board. It was similar to that. There was one additional resolve that Councilperson Hinkle included, and I will move that now as an amendment for TCOG to consider. And that would be at line 23, a second resolved. Resolved further that any expanded local EMS operations mandated as a result of this coordinated countywide planning effort be supported by funding from state and county sources and not burden local municipalities. If anyone chooses to second that.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion on that?
I think it's self-explanatory. That was paraphrasing what Ms. Hinkle had proposed in the Enfield resolution.
Is that consistent with the direction that the county's going in?
You know, it's hard to say at this point what the county's going to do. I don't think we're going to see a plan put forward that says the municipalities that are funding ambulance or EMS don't have to anymore. And so that's why I'm reluctant to support this amendment, because my town's already got skin in the game, and we're not talking about stepping back. We understand that there's a local government role here. And it's just not how Dryden operates. We're willing to put in some money to make sure that our residents are protected.
It could be read to indicate, as you just said, Dan, that the local municipalities would be out of the game.
I just, you know, I don't think we have a proposal on the table to really, you know, to say, whatever you do, we're not going to pay for anything. I don't know if that's the right attitude right now with this. I mean, I'd like to say to my taxpayers, hey, guess what? You know, I don't support us doing anything for EMS or ambulance. I don't know if that would fly in Dryden. I think we see, you know, Dryden has a role in this, and all of us do. We'd like to have less of a role, I'll be sure, and that's kind of what I'm fighting for here. But I don't know if I can just preclude and say, you know, localities have no role. Mike Murphy.
I'd love if the state contributed money, but I don't think it'll happen. This is a local thing. To require that the locals provide it, I would think that's the way it should be. I'd love to get their money. There's many other demands from the state municipalities I think they should be paying, but I think this is a local thing and county-wise. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you, Mike. Caitlin Olson. Caitlin, can you hear us? Okay, you're frozen. Go ahead. No, she's muted.
He's also muted, right?
No, unfortunately, we can't hear you.
Whoops, we lost her altogether.
Did she check to make sure Beck was on mic?
How are we doing on our quorum, Taylor?
You're at 9.
We're at quorum, okay. The meeting shall proceed. Mark Whitmer.
Yeah, I'm also reluctant to add this resolution. It just because I think it's a separate issue that is undecided and complex, and for one, for the reason Dan stated, but and I think it's so and these are things we're working on, but whether the funding comes from the state or the county or local municipalities, this is a service that ultimately our residents will pay for. So I would urge that we not include it, as I think it complicates it a bit.
Other comments? Mike Murphy, your hand is still up, but I think you said what you needed to say, right?
Presumptively. I'm curious to know what Royden thinks about this.
You're being invited to comment, Ruth. Not sure if we're allowed to.
No, Ruth Royden.
Oh, Royden. Okay, Royden. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody already knows what I think about this. I am the resident broken record on this. I mean, specifically to the resolution before us, the resolution is whether or not to encourage the governor to sign a bill that has been passed. So adding language to our
on the amendment, not the resolution. I'm sure we all know how you feel about the resolution.
Yeah, I mean, the amendment would be the amendment is actually that was my point, Joel, is that the amendment doesn't actually address the question, right? So if we add an amendment that their funding will be directed a certain way, that's not relevant to the bill that has been passed that the governor may or may not yet call to her desk. So either we want that bill as passed and as written by the Assembly and the Senate to be called to the governor's desk, or we don't. If it's called to her desk and she signs it, that bill is silent with respect to funding. So I don't know that us adding any language with respect to how it should be funded is relevant to the question.
Correct.
Good point.
All right. Any other comments on this before we vote?
We have Caitlin and Susan who just came back into the attendees list.
Oh, good.
Okay, I don't see them on the screen yet.
Neither.
Oh, there we go.
That's Caitlin.
All right. Caitlin, now that you're back, would you like to weigh in on this issue?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Sorry, I had to hop off and try again. I caught what everybody else said. I completely agree. I think this would muddy the waters to try and add this resolution, even though I would love to see state funding and county funding help out. I don't think it's appropriate in this particular one, but I endorse everything else that was proposed.
Okay, just to clarify, you said adding the resolve, not the resolution.
Yeah, so yes, I think adding the amendment to the resolution is appropriate, but I support the resolution.
Very good. And Susan, did you want to weigh in on this as well? Hi.
I agree with the previous speaker, and with my apologies, I my internet provider kicked me out for a minute.
All right. So let's have a vote on the amendment on the floor right now from Bob Lynch.
We have Dan Lamb.
No.
No. Robert Lynch.
Yes.
Joel Gannon.
No.
Joanne James.
No.
Susan Ainsley.
No.
Becky Koenig. Did she fall off? She did. Caitlin Olson.
No.
Mark Whitmer.
I'm reading lips. He says no.
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 Mike Murphy.
No.
Pierre St. Perez.
Nay.
Roden Hart.
No.
Ruth Groff.
No.
Okay. Vote on the resolution now.
So motion fails. Vote on the resolution passing.
Dan Lamb.
Yes.
Robert Lynch.
Yes.
Joel Gannon.
Yes.
Joanne James.
Yes.
Susan Ainsley.
Yes.
Caitlin Olson.
Yes.
Mark Whitmer.
Yes.
Michael Murphy.
Yes.
Pierre St. Perez.
Yay.
Roden Hart.
Yes.
Ruth Groff.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Next, we go on to our subcommittee liaison reports. First up is cybersecurity and municipal information technology services.
We've been on a bit of a hiatus, so I have nothing to report, but it is a beautiful day in Trumansburg, so.
Okay. Yes, I think we all want to get out and enjoy the sunshine. How about energy? Any reports from the energy subcommittee? Do we have
Yeah, where's Rod today?
do we have a chair here on energy, or anyone from energy?
Oh, I'm here from Energy, but we haven't met in that period, so there's nothing to report.
Okay. Transportation, Bob, you always have something.
Yes, I submitted, you may have received it in your inbox already. I submitted it to the clerk, a 2-page summary of 2 things in particular that we're dealing with. One is the airport, and one is TCAT. And I'd like to spend a couple of minutes to discuss the airport issue because we haven't really addressed that in recent meetings. But there are budget items that are before the county that are important here, and I'll summarize them as follows. Supported by the Tompkins County Administrator and currently undergoing review by the Tompkins County Legislature is a major infusion of local public funding for the Ithaca-Tompkins International Airport. The funding is controversial, and its final approval remains by no means certain. In his budget message to the Tompkins County Legislature on September 2nd, County Administrator Corsa Akumfi recommended a $1.97 million annual 3-year commitment to the Ithaca Airport to sustain its operations and improve its competitiveness and attracting passengers. And to clarify, that's $1.97 million 3 times, in this coming year and in the next 2 years that follow. And my 2-page report will summarize some of the arguments that were made. I will mention that the matter did come up and was discussed at the September 18th meeting of the Expanded Budget Committee of the Tompkins County Legislature. And it was discussed at that time, and there was some pushback from some legislators. The airport's director, Roxanne Noble, and its deputy director, Josh Nally, came before the Expanded Budget Committee, and they faced tough questions from legislators concerning their budget request. The subsidies, the airport officials argued, could lower the cost per enplanement, that's nicknamed CPE. It's a mathematical calculation airlines make at year end, dividing the cost of landing here by the number of passengers served. Noble hoped the subsidy would lower the current CPE from the currently estimated $30 to around $15, thereby encouraging airlines to fly here. I will note that legislator Lee Shurtleff asked Noble the question, will lower CPEs cut passenger fares? Her response, fares are very tricky, Noble said. Airfares make no sense. Legislator Deborah Dawson noted that local taxpayers continue to pay down debt on the airport's pre-pandemic renovations, money that operational revenues were supposed to cover yet never did. A quote from her, we've been forking over $625,000 a year for that debt service. Now you're asking us for another $6 million over 3 years to cut the costs of employments. So you know, a lot of people are not really sanguine about this suggestion. That's from Deborah Dawson, county legislator. And on the 2nd of October, the Expanded Budget Committee will begin looking at numbers and refining the budget that the administrators submitted, and will be making cuts or additions. And right now, that's where it stands. Any questions?
That's a very thorough report. We appreciate that.
That's a report.
Yeah, we appreciate your written report that we can all review.
That was item 1. It was an item 2?
I'm sorry?
You said there were 2 items. That was one.
Oh, the other was regarding TCAT, and I can read a little bit about that just briefly. And this was from Patty Poist, the Communications and Marketing Manager of TCAT. And she said, ridership is recovering from some recent dips. We are still running about 70% of what we did in 2019. 2 of the 6 new electric Gillig buses have passed New York State Department of Transportation inspection, and the other 4 are slated for inspection in the coming weeks. None of them are in service yet, as we must first offer training to our team. We expect them to be on the road sometime in the next few weeks, but much depends on New York State DOT schedules. And she adds, all 5 of the new diesels are on the road, and they are doing great. That's from her.
Mark Whitmer.
Yeah, hey, Bob, that's great to hear about the electric buses coming online soon. Yeah, I'm excited about that. You might have reported on this before. What happened to the previous generation of, were they Proterra? Is that the right name? Proterra buses? I wondered what was resolved from all that.
I do not know where they stand right now. I know, of course, they were not put back into service because of structural problems. And as far as I know, and perhaps Matthew Rosenblum-Jones from TCAT could explain it further, and I may follow up before the next meeting as to where they stand. But there was some question of whether we would really have to absorb the expense of those as a loss item. And again, I don't want to speak for the agency. The agency should clarify that, but I don't know exactly financially where that stands.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, I remember there was some possibility, I thought, of recovering some funds, so thank you.
I have not heard anything yet.
All right, thank you very much, Bob. And lastly, we have the Emergency Planning and Preparedness Committee report. Mark?
Sure, I'll be brief. Really, the update was covered by Corsa. We're waiting for the county is waiting for the report from CGR. So that's, sounds like that's coming at the October Public Safety Committee meeting. And I will mention that our committee did meet with Paul Bishop from CGR and shared information. So that's all. And yeah, can somebody remind me when that October date is for the Public Safety Committee meeting?
I'm afraid Annie's already gone. I
okay.
don't have it, and I don't know if Taylor knows.
One second.
She's looking it up.
Okay, thank you. Or I can figure it out later, but thanks.
It's October 28th at 1 o'clock.
Great. Thank you, Taylor.
And I'll just emphasize as a member of that committee that Paul did take our invitation to visit with us, and we had a great dialogue that I think enhanced his work. I'll just put it that way. Yeah. Bob.
I did zoom into the expanded budget committee where the Department of Emergency Response made its presentation. And I will just remark that it seemed from what Mike Steitley said and others from DOER said that night that it's pretty much resolved in their mind that the expanded RMR will not happen in 2026. There was no request made by the department head for the Department of Administration to revisit his decision not to fund the expanded RMR in next year's budget. So I guess it's pretty much resolved that rapid medical response will continue as it presently is. I think they're going to add one more vehicle just as a standby unit, but it will still be a 3-unit so-called fly car system into the next year.
I guess if I could add on to that, I'll just say, I know that the county is waiting to hear Paul Bishop, the CGR report. And so I don't know what might follow from that, but that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look at the language that was in the proposed budget about RMR. Warden, do you happen to have that in front of you? What the proposed budget said about RMR? I mean, we were encouraged by what we saw.
Yeah, so the proposed budget moves RMR from contingent to, Taylor will have to help me with the language. It's from contingent to levy, I think. So that makes it essentially a permanent program, but at its current staffing level. So it does not expand number of days or hours. So it's still going to be Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. in 2026.
Yeah, and we saw that as moving it from pilot status to basically permanent.
Pilot, that's what I was looking for, yeah.
So I think we can all, celebrate that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, well, that brings us to the end of the substance on our agenda. We've got items like the next meeting and then adjournment. So when are we meeting next?
Yeah, good question.
Take us to December?
Yep, December 11th at 3 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. I can actually do that. Class is in that week, and I will be free at 3. Wonderful. Everyone got that on your calendar? December 11th at 3 o'clock?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Question. Do we have to think about the leadership change before then, or is that something we can address at that meeting?
I was thinking at the meeting, but
yeah,
I think we'll address that at the meeting. That will be an agenda item.
Okay. Comes around awful quick,
It sure does. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I think we've had a productive meeting. Thanks, everyone, for joining us on a Friday, and have a great weekend.
Great.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks,
Bye,
Dan.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody.